Ndidi was the kind of girl everyone in the village knew. She was only 19, but her face already carried the tiredness of someone who had seen many hard days. Her skin was the color of warm earth, and her eyes were sharp and bright, like someone always looking for a reason to smile, even when there was none. Her slippers were worn out at the sides, her wrapper was faded, and the old plastic bag she carried had been patched so many times it looked like a patch itself. But inside her, there was still something strong. A hope that one day, things would change. That morning, the sun had no mercy. It sat right on top of the sky, pouring hot fire down on the cracked ground. The village looked tired. Even the trees were bending low, like they were begging for rain. Ndidi walked fast, holding the plastic bag tight under her arm. Beside her was Timmy, her best friend. Timmy was taller than her, slim and always talking fast. His slippers made loud slapping sounds as he rushed ahead. "Hurry, Ndidi," Timmy said, looking over his shoulder. "If we don't get there on time, the councilman will leave. And if he leaves, forget that farming grant." Ndidi's legs were already burning, but she forced herself to move faster. "I'm trying, Timmy," she said, panting. Timmy shook his head. "No trying today. You must get that money, Ndidi. You know it's our last hope. No money, no seeds, no farm, no food." Ndidi bit her lip. She knew he was right. At home, her mother was sick, lying on the old mat, coughing all night. Their farm was dry, the river had turned to sand, and there was nothing left to sell in the market. This grant was the only thing that could save them. They were almost at the junction when Ndidi saw something that made her stop. There, by the side of the dusty road, an old woman was dragging a huge bundle of firewood. The firewood was tied together with a torn rope, and it looked like it weighed more than the old woman herself. Her back was bent low, and her hands shook as she tried to move forward. Sweat poured down her face, and her wrapper was soaked. Every few steps, she stopped, panting hard. The woman lifted her head slowly and called out, her voice dry like the Harmattan wind. "My children, please, help me." Ndidi's heart squeezed. She slowed down and looked at her. Timmy grabbed her arm sharply. "Don't even think about it," he said. "We are already late. If you stop now, forget everything." Ndidi looked back at him. "But look at her," she whispered. "She can't carry it alone." Timmy hissed. "Did she ask you to carry firewood when you were hungry? When you were crying for food? Beg Ndidi, leave her. We must think of ourselves now." Ndidi turned her eyes back to the old woman. The woman's legs were shaking. She looked like she could fall any second. Her mouth opened again, but no sound came out. Only her tired eyes begged. Timmy tugged her arm harder. "Let's go," he snapped. "The councilman doesn't wait for slow people." Ndidi pulled her arm free. She stared at Timmy, feeling something hot rise in her chest. "What if it was your mother?" she said softly. "Would you want someone to walk past?" Timmy looked away, frowning. He tapped his slippers against the ground impatiently. Ndidi took a deep breath. The sun was so hot her head was spinning, and the road ahead still looked endless. But somehow, she knew that this moment was bigger than the farming grant. She dropped her plastic bag on the ground and walked toward the old woman. The old woman looked up, confused. "Mama," Ndidi said, smiling gently. "Where is your house? I will help you." The old woman's lips trembled. For a moment, she just stared at Ndidi like she couldn't believe what she heard. Then slowly, she pointed with her shaking hand. "That way, my daughter," she said. Ndidi nodded. She bent down, lifted the heavy bundle of firewood onto her own head, and staggered a little under the weight. The firewood smelled of dry leaves and smoke. She could feel the rough sticks scratching her neck. Timmy watched from the side, arms folded, shaking his head in disbelief. "You are on your own," he shouted after her. "If you miss the councilman, don't cry to me later." Ndidi didn't answer. She just balanced the firewood better on her head and followed the old woman slowly down a small dusty path. As they walked, something strange happened. The sun, which had been burning so fiercely, started to hide behind a thin cover of clouds. The road, which had been boiling hot, suddenly felt cooler. Even the dusty wind became softer, brushing against Ndidi's face like a whisper. Timmy looked up at the sky, his mouth slightly open. He felt a small shiver run down his back, but he didn't know why. The path twisted behind some old huts and tall dry grasses. The farther they went, the quieter it became. Ndidi heard only the sound of her own breathing and the soft crunch of their footsteps on dry sand. Finally, they reached a small compound. The house was nothing but cracked mud walls and a thatched roof full of holes. But somehow, the ground was swept clean, and a few stubborn flowers grew by the corner. Ndidi carefully lowered the firewood beside a short mango tree. She wiped her forehead with the edge of her wrapper and turned to the old woman. "Mama," she said, breathing hard, "I will go now." The old woman nodded slowly, her eyes shining with something that looked like tears. But just as Ndidi was about to leave, the woman spoke again. "My daughter," she said softly, "please, before you go, help me with one more thing." Ndidi turned back immediately. "Anything, Mama." The woman pointed at a corner of the compound. "There," she said, "under the small tree, you will see a native pot. Bring it to me." Ndidi nodded. Her legs felt weak, but she walked to the corner. Hidden under some dry leaves was a small clay pot. It was old, with cracks on the sides, and covered with a piece of red cloth. She picked it up carefully and carried it back to the woman. "Here, Mama," Ndidi said, handing it over. The woman smiled, her lips thin and dry. She sat down on a small wooden stool and untied the red cloth slowly. Her fingers moved carefully, like she was handling something very precious. Ndidi leaned forward, her eyes wide. The old woman opened the pot. Inside was something shiny. Ndidi gasped. It was a small gourd wrapped in red cloth, but it glowed slightly, like the sun was hiding inside it. The woman lifted it out with both hands. "You are kind," she said, her voice stronger now. "And kind people are few." She placed the glowing gourd gently into Ndidi's hands. "Listen carefully," she said. "Keep it for 7 moonrises. Do not open it, no matter what happens." Ndidi stared at the gourd, feeling it warm in her palms. "After 7 moonrises," the woman continued, "you can open it. And when you do, your life will never be the same again." Ndidi dropped to her knees. "Thank you, Mama," she said, her voice shaking. "I didn't help you because I wanted anything. I helped because you needed help." The woman reached out and touched her head gently. "And that," she said, "is why you were chosen." Ndidi stood up slowly, still cradling the gourd carefully. Her heart was beating so loud she could hear it in her ears. She looked back one last time at the old woman, who was smiling now, a deep, knowing smile. Ndidi turned and began to walk back down the dusty path, her head full of questions, her hands holding something she didn't understand yet. Above her, the clouds thickened, and the wind whispered secrets only the trees could hear. But Ndidi just kept walking, the gourd close to her chest, not knowing that everything in her life was about to change. Ndidi didn't run. She didn't skip. She just walked with quiet steps, holding the gourd close like a baby. Her arms ached, but she didn't switch hands. She didn't want to drop it, not even for a second. Her slippers slapped the dry road as she made her way back through the bush path, past the quiet huts, and onto the main road where the sun had returned. The clouds that covered it earlier were gone. Now, the heat had come back full force, like nothing strange had happened. But something had happened. Ndidi could feel it. Something had changed. Not outside, but inside her. She reached her small house at the edge of the village. It had 1 room, a tin roof, and a tiny space outside where her mother usually Saturday. The house looked tired, like it had been hoping for rain just as much as they had. Her mother, Mama Ijike, was lying on the mat, coughing into a faded scarf. Her face was thin, and her eyes looked far away, like they were always searching. When she saw Ndidi coming, she tried to sit up. "Where did you go?" Mama asked with a weak voice. "I went to the council office," Ndidi said, kneeling beside her. But something happened. What happened? Ndidi looked around, lowered her voice, and brought the gourd out of the nylon bag. She placed it on the floor, still wrapped in red cloth. Mama, a woman gave me this. Mama blinked. A woman? Yes, an old woman. She was carrying firewood. I helped her, and she gave me this. Mama's eyes narrowed. What's inside? I don't know. She said I should not open it for 7 moonrises. Mama sat up slowly, her eyes on the gourd. She didn't speak for a while. Then she said, "Where is the woman now?" Ndidi shook her head. I don't know. Her house was far, behind the bush path. But Mama, something about her felt not normal. Mama looked at the gourd again. She reached out and touched the red cloth gently. Did she tell you why she gave it to you? Ndidi nodded. She said I was kind. That kind people are few. She said after 7 moonrises, I can open it, and my life will never be the same. Mama looked into her daughter's eyes. And you believe her? I do, Ndidi said. I feel it. Even now, I feel it. Mama sighed. Then keep it. But hide it well. Some gifts are not meant to be seen too early. Ndidi nodded and got up. She went to the corner of the room, lifted the mat, and placed the gourd under it. Just then, someone banged on the door. Ndidi. It was Timmy. Ndidi stood up slowly. Her heart started beating fast. Ndidi, open. Timmy said again. You left me on the road. Ndidi opened the door a little and peeped outside. Timmy was sweating, his shirt hanging off one shoulder. Why are you looking at me like that? He asked. ABI, you think I'm a stranger now? Ndidi stepped out and closed the door behind her. I'm sorry, Timmy, she said. I had to help the woman. Timmy waved his hand. Forget that. Did you get the grant? No, Ndidi said. But something else happened. Timmy's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Ndidi looked around. She pulled him aside. The woman gave me something. What thing? I can't show you, but she said it will change my life. Timmy folded his arms. You mean she gave you money? No. Food? No. Then what? A chicken? Ndidi rolled her eyes. Not everything is joke, Timmy. Okay. Sorry. He leaned closer. Tell me, what did she give you? Ndidi lowered her voice. A gourd. A small one. She said I should keep it for 7 days. Then open it. Timmy raised one eyebrow. Just like that? She gave you a gourd and said your life will change. Yes. And you believe that? Ndidi nodded. Timmy started laughing. Loud. So you helped a woman and she gave you a water bottle. Ndidi frowned. It's not funny. Timmy wiped his eyes. I'm not laughing at you, oh. But come on, Ndidi. You're not a child. She didn't look normal, Timmy. The clouds changed when I helped her. The road became cool. Even you saw it. Timmy paused. Yes, the clouds did cover the sun for a while. Ndidi folded her arms. Exactly. But still, a gourd. She said I shouldn't open it yet. Timmy looked serious now. So, it might be something powerful inside. I don't know. Can I see it? No. Why? She said I should keep it safe. And I don't want to disobey her. Timmy stepped back. Okay, no problem. He turned and started walking away. Ndidi felt strange. She didn't like how he changed so quickly. Timmy. He didn't answer. Timmy, are you angry? He stopped. Why would I be angry? It's your gourd, not mine. Ndidi watched him go. Something in her chest felt heavy. Not because of the gourd, but because of the look on Timmy's face. That night, she couldn't sleep. The gourd was still under her mat. She kept turning and turning, until finally, she heard it. A sound. Soft. Like a hum. Ndidi sat up slowly. Her ears focused. Hum. 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 It was coming from under the mat. She bent down and lifted it. The gourd was still wrapped, but the sound was coming from it. She touched it. It was warm. Her heart beat faster. She almost opened it. Her fingers even touched the knot on the red cloth. But something stopped her. She heard the old woman's voice again. 7 moonrises, don't open it. Ndidi wrapped it tighter and placed it back. She whispered, I'll wait. I promise. The next morning, the whole village was talking about water. Children were going from house to house with empty jerrycans. The borehole had dried again. Ndidi took her own jerrycan and joined them. When she reached the queue, she saw an old man fighting with a boy. Why should I wait behind this one? The old man shouted. I came before his mother even gave birth to him. The boy cried. I only asked for a turn. People pulled them apart. The queue broke. Dust filled the air. Children screamed. Ndidi stepped aside. She walked to the nearest hut, knocked, and asked for water. A woman gave her half a cup. She sipped it slowly, trying not to cry. When she got home, her mother was waiting. Did you get water? She asked. Just small. Mama smiled sadly. We'll share it. They sat in silence, passing the cup between them. Later in the afternoon, Timmy came again. He didn't knock. He just stood by the window, staring in. Ndidi went outside. You're still holding that thing? He asked. Yes. Nothing has changed. It's not time yet. Timmy looked annoyed. But what if it's fake? What if the woman is mad? Or a witch? Ndidi shook her head. She's not. Timmy came closer. Let's just open it a little. Just a peek. No. Please. I said no. Timmy's face turned cold. You don't trust me. I do. But I made a promise. Timmy looked away. Okay. He walked off again. That night, the gourd hummed louder. This time, Ndidi didn't touch it. She just sat on the floor, listening. The sound was deep now, like something calling her name. Ndidi, Ndidi. She covered her ears. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. But the voice didn't stop. The next day, Timmy didn't come. Ndidi felt worried. She asked around. Nobody had seen him. She walked to his house. His mother was sweeping the compound. Good morning, Ma. Ndidi. Morning. Is Timmy inside? No. Oh. He left before dawn. Did he say where he was going? The woman shook her head. Just carried his bag and left. Said he had somewhere to go. Ndidi felt her stomach twist. She ran home and checked under the mat. The gourd was still there, but something didn't feel right. That evening, as the sun was going down, she heard children shouting. Come and see. Somebody is shouting in the square. Ndidi dropped her plate and ran. When she got there, her heart almost stopped. It was Timmy. He was lying in the dirt, shirt torn, eyes wide, screaming. My hands! My hands! It's burning! People were gathered, whispering. What's wrong with him? Is it madness? Did he eat something strange? Timmy kept rolling, holding his hands. They were red and swollen. Blisters had started to form. Ndidi pushed through the crowd. Timmy! She shouted. What happened? He looked at her. His eyes were wild. His lips trembled. I didn't open it, he whispered. Then he screamed again. The drum. The voices. They said don't touch it. Ndidi stepped back. Her heart pounded. Timmy, did you? He rolled away, still shouting. It burns. It burns. They are watching me. The village priest came. He touched Timmy's forehead and hissed. This is not fever, he said. This is judgment. They carried Timmy away. Ndidi stood in the middle of the square, not moving. She didn't need to ask anymore. She knew. He had touched the gourd. And now, something had touched him back. Ndidi stood there, frozen. The noise around her became quiet in her ears. She couldn't hear the villagers anymore. All she could hear was the sound of Timmy's voice from moments ago, echoing again and again in her head. I didn't open it. The drum. The voices. It burns. She felt cold, even though the evening heat was still thick in the air. Her heart was beating fast, and her chest felt tight. She didn't want to believe it, but deep inside her, something told her the truth. He touched it. He touched the gourd. Indidi turned slowly and began walking back home. She didn't speak to anyone. She didn't look at anyone. The crowd behind her was still murmuring, still asking questions, but she didn't stay to answer them. When she got home, she didn't go inside immediately. She just stood by the doorway, staring at the small mat on the floor. Under that mat was the gourd. The same gourd the old woman gave her. The same one that hummed softly at night and warmed her hands like firewood from a sacred tree. She walked in slowly, closed the door, and dropped to her knees. She lifted the mat. There it was. Still wrapped in red cloth. Still quiet. Indidi reached for it, but her fingers shook. She wanted to be sure. She needed to know if he really opened it. But she was afraid. She took a deep breath and touched the red cloth gently. It was still tied. Still sealed. But something felt different. The cloth was no longer tight the way she left it. Someone had loosened it and tied it back again. She stared at it, her hands still. Timmy, she whispered, her voice low. Why? Indidi sat there for a long time, just staring at it. Her mother came out from the back room, her face pale and tired. What happened? She asked. I heard shouting. What's going on? Indidi looked up slowly. It's Timmy. Mama frowned. What about him? He touched the gourd. Mama's eyes grew wide. She came forward quickly. He did what? Indidi nodded. I don't know how, but he must have opened it. Now, he's not himself. He was screaming in the village square, saying it burns, talking about voices. Mama sat beside her, took the gourd from her hand, and held it close. I warned you, she said. Some gifts are not to be played with. I didn't give it to him, Indidi said, almost crying. I told him no. I told him to leave it. Mama looked at her daughter and pulled her into a hug. It's not your fault, she said. Greedy hands always look for shortcuts. You did the right thing. But some people don't listen. Indidi nodded slowly. That night, she couldn't sleep again. The humming came back. But it was different. Louder. And sad. Almost like crying. Indidi sat up and whispered, I'm still here. I didn't break the promise. She placed her hand on the mat and waited. The sound slowly became soft again, like it heard her and understood. The next morning, she went to the village square. People were gathered in small groups, talking, whispering. Timmy was gone. Some said he ran into the forest during the night. Others said the spirits dragged him away while he was still screaming. One old man said, Nobody steals from the gods and remains whole. Indidi listened quietly. She walked slowly back to her compound, her feet heavy. As she was about to enter the house, she saw something. A shadow, sitting by the side of her door. Her heart jumped. It was the old woman, the one with the firewood. She looked just like before, thin, quiet, still. Indidi gasped and dropped her bag. Mama, she said, running over. You came back. The old woman looked up and smiled. You carried my firewood, she said softly. Indidi dropped to her knees. I kept the gourd. I didn't open it. But someone else did. I'm sorry. The woman looked at her carefully. I know, she said. But you were not the one who broke the rule. Indidi nodded slowly. He was my friend. I trusted him. Sometimes, the woman said, the ones closest to us are the ones who steal first. Indidi's eyes began to fill with tears. I didn't want him to get hurt, she said. The woman touched her cheek. Her hand felt cool and soft. Pain teaches, she whispered. And those who rush before the time, fall. Indidi looked into the woman's eyes. What should I do now? The woman pointed to the corner of the yard. Go to that spot, she said. Under the ground is a second gift. One for the one who waited. Indidi stood up quickly and ran to the corner. She dropped to the ground, used her hands to dig through the dry sand. Her fingers hit something hard. She cleared more sand. It was a second gourd. Smaller. Covered in white cloth this time. She lifted it carefully and turned back to the woman. But the woman was gone. Indidi looked around, confused. She checked the compound. The road. The trees. Nobody. No footprints. Nothing. The seat where the woman sat was empty. Indidi walked back slowly, holding the new gourd. She placed it beside the first one and sat down. Her mother came out again. What are you holding? She came back, Indidi whispered. She gave me another one. Mama sat beside her, eyes wide. Another one. Indidi nodded. She said it's for the one who waited. Mama touched her shoulder. Then you must wait again. Indidi looked at both gourds. I will. That night, the house was quiet. No humming. No whispers. Just stillness. And for the first time in many days, Indidi slept peacefully. Indidi woke up with the first light of the morning. She sat up quickly, wiping her face with her hands. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then she saw the two gourds by the corner of the room, wrapped tightly in cloth, waiting like silent guards. It all came rushing back. The old woman. The firewood. Timmy's screaming. The second gourd. Indidi stood up slowly. Her legs felt weak, like they didn't belong to her. She walked to the window and looked outside. The ground was still dry. Dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts. A rooster crowed somewhere far away, but even the sound felt tired. Her mother was already awake, sweeping the compound slowly. Indidi stepped outside. Mama, good morning, she said. Mama looked up and smiled weakly. Morning, my child. Did you sleep well? Indidi nodded. Better than before. Mama leaned on her broom and looked at her carefully. And the gourd? No noise again. No, Mama. It was quiet. Mama nodded slowly, like she was thinking of something deep. As Indidi helped her sweep, she noticed the sky. It was not blue like before. It was gray, heavy, and thick. Like something was hiding inside it. Waiting. Mama, look at the sky, she said. Mama looked up. Her eyes narrowed. Maybe rain is coming. Indidi wanted to believe it. But something told her it was more than just rain. It was a warning. Later that afternoon, the village square was full. The elders had called a meeting. Everyone came, women with babies tied to their backs, old men leaning on walking sticks, small boys chasing each other between the legs of the crowd. Indidi stood quietly at the edge with her mother. The head of the elders, Papa Ayib, stood in the center, clearing his throat. Our village is under something strange, he said loudly. We have no rain. Our crops are dying. Our children are sick. And now, madness is walking among us. People murmured. Papa Ayib lifted his hand. I have spoken with the shrine priest. He says something was stolen. The murmuring grew louder. Papa Ayib pointed around. Something sacred was touched when it was not time. And until it is set right, more madness may come. Indidi felt everyone's eyes turning, looking for someone to blame. She stepped back slowly. Then Papa Ayib's eyes landed on her. You, he said. Indidi froze. Come forward, child. Mama squeezed her hand quickly, then let her go. Indidi walked slowly to the center of the square. Her legs felt like stones. She could feel the whole village staring. What do you know about this matter? Papa Ayib asked. Indidi opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her throat was dry. Papa Ayib's voice grew harder. Speak, girl, before the gods punish us all. Indidi swallowed hard. She looked at the crowd. She saw people she grew up with. Friends. Neighbors. Even the women who used to buy her mother's vegetables at the market. Now, their faces were full of fear. Indidi took a deep breath. I helped an old woman, she said softly. She gave me a gourd. She said it was a gift for kindness. She told me to wait 7 moonrises before opening it. The crowd listened in silence. Ndidi continued. I kept it safe. But someone else, someone close to me, touched it. Who? Papa Ayub asked sharply. Ndidi lowered her head. Timmy. Gasps filled the square. Where is he now? Someone shouted. He ran mad. Another voice cried out. Ndidi lifted her head. It was not me. I kept my promise. I swear it. Papa Ayub looked at her for a long time. His old eyes seemed to dig into her soul. Finally, he nodded. The gods know who is guilty and who is innocent, he said. He turned to the villagers. Let us not punish the wrong person. Let us watch and wait. The crowd began to break apart, murmuring as they left. Ndidi stood there for a moment longer, feeling like a small leaf in a big storm. Then she turned and walked home. That night, as Ndidi lay on her mat, hugging herself tightly, the wind began to blow harder. Dust flew through the cracks of the hut, making small swirling clouds inside the room. Mama got up and closed the window with an old cloth. Ndidi sat up. Mama, I'm scared. Mama sat beside her and touched her hair gently. Don't be, she said. The gods are watching. The good heart is stronger than any curse. Ndidi wanted to believe it, but deep inside, fear was growing like a weed. She didn't know what would happen next. She only knew that something was coming. Something big. The next morning, something strange happened. Ndidi stepped outside to sweep the compound. As she raised her broom, she stopped. There, sitting under the mango tree by the corner, was the old woman. Again. But this time, she didn't look old. Her back was straight. Her skin was smooth. Her wrapper was clean and white, shining even in the weak sunlight. Ndidi dropped the broom and stared. The woman smiled. You have waited, she said. Ndidi walked slowly toward her. Her heart was beating so hard she thought it would break her chest. Yes, Mama. I waited. The woman nodded. You have passed the test. Ndidi knelt in front of her. Mama, please. What is happening? Why is everything so strange? The woman looked up at the sky. The clouds were gathering again, thick and dark. There is a weight on this land, she said. A heavy weight made by greed, by anger, by forgetting the old ways. Ndidi listened closely. But one heart can lift it, the woman continued. One pure heart. Mine. Ndidi whispered. The woman smiled again. You carried firewood without asking for reward. You waited when others would not. You listened when the greedy only took. Ndidi's eyes filled with tears. But what must I do now? The woman stood up slowly. When the 7th moon rises, she said, you will know. She turned and began to walk away. Ndidi jumped up. Wait, Mama. Don't go. But the woman kept walking. Her feet didn't even touch the ground. Ndidi ran after her, but when she reached the mango tree, the woman was gone. Only a soft smell of fresh rain was left in the air. Ndidi stood there, breathing hard. She looked up at the sky. The clouds were darker now. The wind was louder. The earth was waiting. And so was she. That evening, the first raindrop fell. Only one. It hit the dry ground with a soft pat and disappeared immediately. Ndidi saw it. She ran to tell Mama. Mama, rain. Mama rushed outside. They both looked up at the sky, waiting for more. But no more came. Only that one drop. Ndidi felt a small smile pull at her lips. It's starting, she whispered. Mama hugged her tightly. Hold on, my child, she said. The sky is waking up. Ndidi hugged her back, feeling hope growing in her chest again, like a tiny green plant pushing through cracked dry earth. She didn't know how, or when, or what exactly would happen. But she knew one thing for sure. She would be ready. Whatever the sky wanted to give, she would be ready. The next morning, Ndidi woke up before the sun. She lay still on her mat, listening to the strange quiet outside. No cock crowed. No goats bleated. Even the trees were silent. It felt like the whole village was holding its breath. She sat up slowly and looked around the small room. The two gourds were still there, side by side under the window. The red cloth on the first one and the white cloth on the second one didn't move, but Ndidi could feel a soft humming coming from them, like a low heartbeat. She stood up and stretched. Her bones cracked. She hadn't been eating well. Their last cup of gari had finished 2 nights ago. Her mother was too weak to work, and no one wanted to buy anything from them anymore. Some people even crossed the road when they saw her, whispering and pointing. But Ndidi didn't mind. She knew it wouldn't be like this forever. She believed the old woman. She believed something was coming. She just had to wait. As Ndidi stepped outside, the air hit her face like a soft slap. It was heavy and wet, even though it hadn't rained. She looked up at the sky. The clouds were darker than before, thick and heavy like big dirty pillows stuffed across the heavens. She picked up the old broom and started sweeping the front yard. As she swept, she saw children walking slowly to the stream, carrying empty buckets on their heads. Their feet kicked up dust. Their faces were dry and tired. Ndidi dropped her broom and ran inside. She grabbed their only empty bucket and ran to her mother. "Mama, I'll fetch water before it finishes," she said. Her mother, lying weakly on the mat, nodded slowly. "Be careful, my child." Ndidi smiled. "I will." She ran out and joined the line of children heading to the stream. When they got to the stream, Ndidi stopped and stared. The stream was almost gone. What used to be a strong river was now just a small strip of dirty water winding through the cracked mud. Boys stood in the middle of it, digging holes with their hands, trying to scoop up water. Ndidi's heart dropped. She walked to the edge and knelt down. She dipped her bucket into a hole that had a little water and filled it slowly, careful not to scoop too much sand. As she stood up, she heard voices behind her. "She's the one," a girl whispered. "The one with the cursed thing." "I heard her friend ran mad because of it," another voice said. Ndidi turned and saw 2 girls, about her age, staring at her and giggling. She looked at them for a long time, then turned away without saying anything. She had no strength for foolishness. She balanced the heavy bucket on her head and began the long walk back home. The sun started climbing up again, burning hot against the dark clouds. Sweat rolled down Ndidi's face, but she didn't stop. She just kept walking, one slow step at a time. When she finally reached home, she dropped the bucket and wiped her forehead. Her mother smiled weakly from the doorway. "You are strong, my daughter." Ndidi smiled back. "We are strong, Mama." She carried the bucket inside and sat down. The gourds hummed softly beside her. That afternoon, the village square was full again. This time, it wasn't a meeting. It was fear. The elders were talking fast. Women were shouting. Men were pointing at the sky. "The clouds are angry," one old man shouted. "The gods are angry. They say a child has brought a curse to us," a woman cried out. "They say a gift was stolen," another man shouted. "And the land is crying for it." Ndidi stood at the edge again, watching. She felt like a tree standing in a flood, strong on the outside, shaking on the inside. Suddenly, Papa Ayib pointed at her. "There she is," he said loudly. "The one with the gourds." All eyes turned to her. Ndidi's heart skipped a beat. A woman pushed forward, her face twisted in anger. "You must open it. Open it now so we can be free." Others joined her. "Open it. Show us what you are hiding. Maybe if we destroy it, the rain will come back." Ndidi stepped back. "I can't," she said, her voice shaking. The woman said to wait. Only after the 7th moonrise. They didn't listen. The crowd moved closer. Ndidi looked around for her mother, but she couldn't see her. She wanted to run, but her legs refused to move. Then Papa Ayib raised his hand. "Stop," he shouted. The crowd froze. Papa Ayib walked slowly to Ndidi. His eyes were hard, but his voice was calm. "Child," he said, "this village has suffered enough. If you truly have nothing to hide, open it. Show us. Ndidi shook her head slowly. I can't. I made a promise. Papa Ayub stared at her for a long time. Then he turned to the crowd. Let her be for now, he said. If the sky does not speak by the 7th moon, then we shall act. The crowd grumbled but slowly began to break apart. Ndidi stood there, breathing hard, until everyone left. Then she turned and walked home. Her legs felt heavy like stones. Her heart felt heavier. That night, Ndidi sat by the window, staring at the sky. The moon was half full, hiding behind thick grey clouds. The gourds sat beside her, quiet but warm. Her mother sat close, weaving an old basket with trembling fingers. Mama, Ndidi said softly, what if they come for me? Mama didn't look up. She kept weaving slowly. They won't, she said. But if they do? Mama stopped weaving and placed her hand on Ndidi's. If they come, you stand. You don't run. Ndidi swallowed hard. But I'm afraid. Mama smiled a little. Courage is not when you are not afraid. Courage is when you are afraid, but you do the right thing anyway. Ndidi nodded slowly. She wiped her eyes and leaned against her mother's shoulder. They sat like that for a long time, two small figures in a small house, waiting for the sky to make a decision. The next day was worse. The heat was so strong that the walls of their house cracked a little. Children cried from hunger. Old men sat under trees, fanning themselves with dry leaves. Women walked from one end of the village to the other, looking for any sign of rain. But the sky just watched. It watched with big dark eyes and said nothing. Ndidi stayed inside most of the day, sitting by the window, holding the second gourd on her lap. She whispered to it sometimes, begging it to hold on, to be patient, to not give up like she wasn't giving up. Her mother cooked the last handful of beans they had. They ate it slowly, not speaking, just chewing and thinking. When night came, the clouds were so thick that not even a single star could be seen. Ndidi sat outside on a small stool, watching the black sky. She counted in her head. 5 moonrises had passed. Only 2 more. 2 more nights. Then everything would change. For better. Or for worse. As Ndidi sat there, something strange happened. A cool wind blew across the village. Not harsh like before. Not dusty. Cool. Soft. The kind of wind that came before rain. Ndidi stood up quickly. She looked up. The clouds moved slowly, shifting and opening a little. And for the first time in many months, the smell of rain filled the air. Ndidi smiled. She ran inside. Mama, Mama, come and see. Her mother got up slowly and followed her outside. They both stood there, heads tilted up, breathing deeply. The smell was sweet and heavy, filling their noses, their mouths, their hearts. Rain is coming, Ndidi said. Mama nodded, her eyes shining. Yes, my daughter. Rain is coming. Ndidi closed her eyes and whispered, thank you. Not to her mother. Not even to the sky. But to the woman in white. The one who gave her the firewood. The one who taught her to wait. The one who showed her that sometimes, the hardest road leads to the best place. Ndidi opened her eyes. The village was quiet. But it was not the fearful quiet of before. It was the quiet of hope. The quiet of people holding their breath, waiting for a miracle. Waiting for the sky to open. Waiting for the rain. And Ndidi, standing there with her mother's hand in hers, knew deep inside her soul. The sky was watching. And this time, it was smiling. The next morning, the smell of rain was still in the air. But not a single drop had fallen yet. Ndidi woke up early. She sat on her mat, hugging her knees, staring at the 2 gourds in front of her. They sat there quietly, wrapped tight in their cloths, like secret messengers waiting for the right time. She stood up and walked outside. The ground was still dry, but it felt different under her feet. Softer. As if it was ready, just waiting for something to happen. Her mother was already awake, sitting by the fire with a small pot of water boiling. Good morning, Mama, Ndidi said, kneeling beside her. Mama smiled. Morning, my child. You didn't sleep much. Indidi shook her head. I was counting the moonrises. Mama stirred the pot slowly. How many left? Tonight will be the 7th, Indidi whispered. Mama nodded. She said nothing else. She just kept stirring the pot. Indidi picked up a small piece of dry yam and chewed slowly. It tasted like dust in her mouth, but she ate it anyway. She needed strength for today. Today was the day everything would change. By afternoon, the whole village was restless. People walked up and down the dusty roads, looking at the sky, shaking their heads, whispering. The clouds were thicker now, darker, almost black. Thunder rolled softly in the distance, like a big drum being beaten slowly. Indidi sat outside their small house, hugging her knees. She watched as groups of women gathered under the big tree at the village square, talking in low voices. She saw men standing in circles, pointing at the sky and arguing. And she saw children playing in the dust, their laughter nervous, their eyes always looking up, checking if the rain had come yet. Indidi's heart felt heavy. It was like everyone was waiting for her. Like the whole village was hanging on the promise she carried in her hands. She stood up and walked back inside. She sat by the gourds and touched them gently. Tonight, she whispered. Tonight you will speak. The gourds stayed quiet, but they felt warm under her fingers. As the sun began to set, the village prepared for night. Fires were lit. Doors were locked. Animals were tied closer to the houses. Everyone could feel it. Something was coming. Indidi sat with her mother inside their small room, both of them silent, both of them staring at the two gourds. The air was heavy. Even breathing felt hard. Mama finally spoke. When it is time, you will know what to do, she said. Indidi nodded. Her hands were shaking, but she didn't want Mama to see. She took a deep breath and whispered, I'm ready. Mama reached out and squeezed her hand. You are stronger than you think. Indidi squeezed back, holding on to her mother like a lifeline. Outside, the first flash of lightning lit up the sky. Thunder roared, louder now, closer. The roof shook. Indidi stood up slowly. She walked to the window and looked outside. The clouds had swallowed the sky completely. No stars, no moon, just deep, dark gray. But then, she saw it. A small break in the clouds. A soft silver light peeking through. The moon. The 7th moonrise. Indidi gasped. She turned to her mother. It's time. Mama stood up slowly. She didn't say a word. She just nodded. Indidi walked to the gourds. Her hands didn't shake anymore. She picked up the second gourd, the one wrapped in white cloth, and held it close to her chest. The first gourd, wrapped in red, she left alone. It had already served its purpose. She stepped outside into the cool night air. The whole village was standing outside too, watching. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. They just watched her. Indidi walked slowly to the middle of the village square. The ground felt alive under her feet, buzzing like it was waiting too. She reached the center and stopped. She looked up at the moon, full and clear now, shining through the crack in the clouds. Indidi took a deep breath. She untied the white cloth. The gourd in her hands began to hum softly, glowing with a soft, golden light. The villagers gasped. Indidi lifted the gourd high above her head. She closed her eyes. And she whispered, I waited. I believed. Now let the sky speak. The gourd shook in her hands. The hum grew louder. The ground trembled. Then, the gourd cracked open. A bright light shot out, blinding for a moment. Indidi dropped to her knees, shielding her eyes. When she looked up, she saw it. Seeds. Tiny golden seeds floated out of the broken gourd, drifting into the air like small stars. They scattered across the village, touching the ground, sinking into the dry earth. And then, the first drop of rain fell. One. Then another. Then another. And then the sky opened. Rain poured down in heavy sheets, washing the dust, soaking the ground, soaking the roofs, soaking the people. The villagers screamed and laughed and cried all at once. Children danced in the mud. Old women lifted their hands to the sky. Men fell to their knees, shouting thanks to the gods. Ndidi just knelt there, letting the rain wash over her, her heart so full she thought it might break. Her mother ran to her and pulled her into a hug, both of them crying and laughing and shouting. The seeds had brought the rain. The waiting had not been for nothing. The promise had been real. Ndidi looked up at the sky, rain pouring down her face, mixing with her tears. "Thank you," she whispered. And deep in the clouds, she thought she saw the shape of a woman in white, smiling down at her. Later that night, after the rain had soaked everything and the ground was soft again, the village gathered around a big fire. They sang songs of joy. They danced. They gave thanks. Papa Ayub stood up and raised his hands. "Today, we have seen that patience brings blessings. Today, we have seen that kindness is never wasted." The people cheered. He turned to Ndidi. "And today, we honor Ndidi, the girl who carried firewood, the girl who waited, the girl who believed." The people shouted her name. "Ndidi! Ndidi! Ndidi!" Ndidi blushed and smiled shyly. She didn't feel like a hero. She just felt happy, truly happy. Because sometimes, it only takes one person to change everything. And sometimes, the smallest acts, the ones nobody sees, carry the biggest blessings. Ndidi stood there by the fire, surrounded by her people, surrounded by rain, surrounded by new life. And she knew, deep in her heart, that this was just the beginning. The rain had come. The seeds had been planted. A new life had begun. And it had all started with a simple act of kindness, helping a tired old woman carry her firewood. The rain poured through the night. It didn't stop. It washed over the roofs, filled the empty drums, soaked the cracked ground, and turned the dry dust into rich, dark soil. For the first time in a very long time, the village breathed. That morning, the whole place smelled like new life. The air was cool. The trees looked greener. And the people smiled again. Ndidi stood in front of their small house, her bare feet sinking into the wet ground. She looked around her. Children ran past, laughing, throwing handfuls of wet sand at each other. Women stood by their doors, singing old songs as they swept the now muddy front of their homes. Goats bleated. Birds chirped from trees that had looked dead only 2 days ago. Everything had changed. Ndidi closed her eyes and let the wind touch her face. Her mother stepped beside her. "It's as if the land is finally breathing again," Mama said. Ndidi nodded. "The sky has forgiven us." Mama looked at her daughter's face and smiled. "You were right to wait." "I almost gave up," Ndidi said quietly. "But something in me said, hold on. Just a little longer." Mama placed a hand on her shoulder. "Sometimes, the hardest thing is not doing. It's waiting." Ndidi didn't say anything. She just looked down at the ground where the golden seeds had landed the night before. Tiny green shoots were already pushing through the mud. Fast. Alive. Ready. She bent down and touched one gently. "It's growing," she whispered. "Yes," Mama said. "And so are you." By evening, the entire village gathered again. But this time, it was not out of fear. It was for celebration. They brought food, drums, wrappers, firewood. They lit fires and cooked jollof rice in large pots. People brought roasted corn, plantain, and even the last smoked meat they had saved from the dry months. Ndidi sat near the center of the square, her legs folded, her eyes wide. Everything felt new. Even the sky above looked like it had been washed clean. Papa Ayub stood up again, this time with a big smile on his face. He raised his hand and said, "Let us thank the gods, but also thank the girl who believed." Everyone clapped. He turned to Ndidi and stretched out his hand. "My daughter," he said, "come forward." Ndidi stood up slowly and walked to him. He looked into her eyes. "Tell us," he said, "what did you see? What did the gourd truly carry?" Ndidi took a deep breath. She turned to the crowd. "I saw seeds," she said softly, "golden seeds. And when they touched the ground, rain followed. I don't fully understand it, but I know it was a gift for waiting." A young boy raised his hand. "Can you show us the gourd?" Ndidi nodded. She turned to her mother, who handed it to her carefully. The gourd was now empty, cracked in two, but when Ndidi lifted it up, it still glowed faintly, as if it remembered what it had done. She held it high. "This," she said, "was never about what I would gain. It was about what we would become." People clapped again. Old women wiped tears from their eyes. Men nodded and looked at the ground. Even the children stood still for a moment, listening. Ndidi looked up at the sky again. It was dark now, but peaceful. Stars sparkled quietly above. She whispered, "Thank you." And deep inside her, she felt the gourd answer. Not in words, but in peace. The kind of peace that stays with you long after the rain is gone. The next few weeks moved like a dream. The rain didn't stop all at once. It came and went, just the way rain should. But it always came back. The ground, once dry and cracked, became soft and rich. The rivers flowed again. The trees grew green. The air smelled fresh every morning, like the land had finally woken up from a long sleep. And the golden seeds? They had taken root. Everywhere you looked, small green plants were pushing through the soil. In corners, by the roads, behind houses. It didn't matter where they fell. They grew. The elders called it miracle harvest. The children just called them Ndidi's seeds. The village was alive again. And so was hope. One morning, Ndidi stood in front of her mother's garden. The same garden that used to be bare. Now it was full. Yams, maize, beans, and vegetables were all growing fast. Her mother came out, holding a basket. "We need to harvest the ugu leaves before they become too big," Mama said. Ndidi laughed and took the basket from her. "Yes, Mama." As they bent down to work, a small girl ran into the compound. It was Chika, the girl from across the road. "Auntie Ndidi," she shouted. Ndidi stood up. "What is it?" "Chika." "There's a visitor at the village square," she said, breathing hard. "She asked for you." Ndidi wiped her hands on her wrapper. "Who?" Chika shook her head. "I don't know, but she's sitting under the big mango tree. And she's wearing all white." Ndidi's heart jumped. She didn't wait. She dropped the basket and started walking fast. When she reached the square, she stopped. There, sitting quietly under the same mango tree where the seeds had fallen, was the old woman. Her wrapper was white and clean. Her skin glowed like sunlight touching water. Her eyes were calm, full of peace. Ndidi walked slowly toward her. "Mama," she said. The woman smiled. "My daughter." Ndidi sat down in front of her. "I didn't know if I would see you again," she whispered. The woman nodded. "You saw me when it mattered. That was enough." Ndidi looked down at her hands. The seeds, they grew. The rain came. The village is alive again. "I know," the woman said. "I've been watching." Ndidi looked up. "Why me, Mama? Why did you choose me?" The woman was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Because when others walked past me, you stopped. You saw an old woman carrying firewood. And instead of looking away, you helped." Ndidi felt her eyes fill with tears. "It didn't feel like much," she said. "But it was everything," the woman replied. "Kindness that expects nothing in return is the most powerful kind of magic." They sat in silence for a while. Then the woman stood up slowly. "It is time," she said. "Time for what?" Ndidi asked, standing too. The woman reached into her wrapper and pulled out something small. It was a pendant, shaped like a tiny gourd, carved from wood, and tied with a thin red string. She placed it around Ndidi's neck. "This will remind you," she said, "of what you carried and what you planted." Ndidi touched it gently. "Thank you." The woman smiled. Then she turned and began to walk away. "Mama," Ndidi called softly, "will I ever see you again?" The woman turned back one last time. "I will always be near," she said. "Wherever there is kindness, I am there." And just like that, she walked behind the tree and was gone. Years later, people still told the story. Of the girl who helped a poor old woman carry firewood. Of the gourd that brought rain. of the seeds that saved a village. And if you ever visited the village and asked for her, the people would smile and point to the farm where everything grows faster than it should. They would say, "That is where she lives. That is the home of Ndidi, the girl who carried firewood and changed everything." Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a like and subscribe. Here is another interesting story to watch. Click to watch now.